Welcome to the case study of the Homeland Security Real ID requirements using Visible Enterprise Data Governance. The Real ID Act enacted the 9/11 Commission's recommendation that the federal government set standards for the issuance of sources of identification such as driver's licenses. The Act established minimum security standards for state-issued driver's licenses and identification cards and prohibits federal agencies from accepting for official purposes licenses and identification cards from the states that do not meet these standards. The Department of Homeland Security was tasked with establishing the driver's license standards to be met by the states. These standards include identification requirements, documentation requirements, and database integration. We will now demonstrate how to set up and run the data governance program for the case study. The visible governance and workflow tasks are completed in 4 steps. 1. Create the business domain, glossary, and vocabulary. 2. Define the models and metadata for Real ID standards and requirements. 3. Link the Real ID standards and requirements to your custom governance process. 4. Define and enable the workflow and tasks to execute your governance process. First, let's take a quick look at the use case. The use case diagram on the right models the actors and use cases for the Real ID system boundary business domain. Here we see the subject matter expert, the database administrator, and the data analyst actors tasked with gathering and implementing the Real ID requirements and documents overseen by the governance director. But first, we need to create the business glossary and vocabulary using the strategic planning statements. This demonstration project references a State Department of Motor Vehicles DMV. We set up an example of a business glossary for the Real ID standards and requirements using the strategic planning statements and substatements in the Visible Analyst. Here we have the identification requirements, the required documentation, the database linkage, and the foreign data sharing. The next action is to link the glossary definition to the workflow task. Double-click on the statement to display its repository entry and select the Links tab. The Links To field is used in the interface to add the workflow tasks in Visible Polaris. Right-mouse click in the Links To field and choose Add Issue. If Polaris is not already open, you are prompted to select the issue set before creating a new workflow task. After clicking the Add Issue option, a new Tasks Detail dialog is displayed. The Details form fields are specified on the template selected when the issue set is created. The Status field is used to define the workflow promotion status of the task. Note that templates can be customized with user-specified controls, such as a list box as shown for the area, team, and user fields. The template is selected when creating a new issue set. The Description tab contains a free-form text field used to define the task. The Attachments field allows you to attach supplemental files or documents to an issue in order to provide additional details. On the Source Files tab, you can link an issue to specific source files under version control, and you can perform SCC provider actions such as check-in, check-out, and view file history. Polaris will work with any Microsoft SCCI compliant provider. Tasks are used to make sure no issue ever falls through the cracks. Use tasks to set up reminders to perform duties specific to the workflow task or to schedule meetings to discuss issue priorities. Every user can create any number of tasks for each issue. Task information includes start date, due date, priority, reminder date time, and a detailed description of the task. When dealing with complex issues, it is often necessary to break up the issues into sub-issues. Polaris allows issues to be linked together through the use of referrals. An issue can be linked to any number of other issues in any issue set. There are 2 types of relationships, parent-child and link. A parent-child relationship implies a hierarchy, while a link does not. If issues are linked together in a parent-child relationship, you can specify that the parent issue cannot be promoted to an approved state until all child issues have already been promoted to that state. Here we see that the Real ID implementation cannot be marked as complete until the child issues have been completed. This referral uses the parent-child relationship to link the tasks. Please note that parent-child relationships are not allowed between different issue sets. You would use the related type to link an issue to another issue in a different issue set. Promotions provide the ability to track how issues are resolved, allowing you to assign users that can create and promote issues from one state to another. All states that have been defined for an issue will be listed in the From State and the To State boxes. To specify the user or groups that can promote an issue from one state to another, select the starting state in the From State box and the ending state in the To State box, and then press the Add button to the right of the Can Be Promoted By list. To specify users or groups that can create new issues, select the first state in both boxes. Polaris supports the ability to prevent file check-in to your source code control provider unless an issue has been promoted to an approved state. Press the Approval button to set the desired minimum approval state. The Will Be Notified When Promotion Occurs box is used to specify the users or groups that will be notified when a state change occurs. Select the starting and ending state and press the Add button. The Events Fired box specifies events, program started, that will be fired when a state change occurs. Select the starting and ending state and press the Add button to the right of the Events Fired field. In addition to the standard interface for creating and monitoring issues, Polaris can be set up to allow users to submit new issues and check the status of issues via email. This function allows customers and service personnel to enter new problems from remote locations without requiring complete access to Polaris. All that is required is an email client such as Outlook that monitors a mailbox for incoming mail that is formatted in a way that Polaris can understand. This is explained in the online help. The workflow user definition. An administrator must create users that have access to Polaris and can then be assigned to issue sets. For each user, the following pieces of information can be assigned: the name, the full name, the email address, the role, a check to see if the account is disabled, and membership in a group. An administrator must create groups that have access to Polaris. Previously defined users can be added to a group, and the group is then assigned access to an issue set. For each group, the following pieces of information can be assigned: group name, description, role, if the group is disabled, and group membership. The workflow fields definitions can be modified by the users. The fields that appear on the form are defined during the issue set creation process. However, certain information about a field can be changed depending upon the type of control that was used. If the control is a combo box, list box, or list view, you can add choices that will be displayed in the control. Click the New button to add information, such as another program area as shown here. Visible Polaris includes a form designer application allowing you to create custom forms for use within issue set. You can also use Visual Studio to create the form. Save the form as a resource file with the .rc file extension and copy the file into the Polaris Templates folder. When creating a new issue set, select the Resource Script radio button, click the three-dot button, and then point and click to the resource file to be used. Reading from the top left, we see the business glossary items defined as strategic planning statements and modeled in a use case and an activity diagram. The new database fields to meet the Real ID requirements are represented in the data structure Real ID fields as shown in the entities driver's license and license applicant. From the data glossary strategic planning statements to the workflow repository links to the tasks defined to the workflow promotion path, data governance is completely documented. For a free trial license, contact Visible Systems at 781-778-0200 or via email to support@visible.com. Thank you.